Hi folks, my name is Matt Merrick and I'm really glad to see you today and thank you for coming to this webinar. I'm a licensed professional counselor and I have been working here at Sierra Tucson for about a year and a half, and I have learned a lot while I've been working here. Today our topic is going to be stress and how to manage it. This is obviously a subject close to my heart and something that I'm always thinking about for my own life as well as for my clients. So I hope you're able to gain something from our time together, that you can take a couple of little pieces of information and use them in your life. During this presentation, I'm not going to be filming myself. I'll just let you focus on the presentation. And at the end, we will have about 5 minutes to do questions. So I'll see you on the other side. So folks, for a minute, I would just like to help you to relax a little bit. Start your day out with a nice relaxing exercise. So I want you to get very comfortable in your chair. I want you to go all loosey-goosey and just kind of let your body relax, let yourself melt into your chair and close your eyes. To begin with, I'd like you to start with 3 slow, deep breaths. So breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Now, while you're feeling comfortable and relaxed, I want you to just scan your body, and I want you to notice the most comfortable place in your body. It doesn't matter how big a place it is, whether it's just your fingertips. I want you just to notice it and to really focus on the comfort that you have in that part of your body. Focus on that place and really focus. And now I want you just to notice what else starts to happen. I'm hoping that as you experience this, it starts to radiate to the rest of your body, where you're focusing on one area of relaxation and it spreads through the rest of your body. Thank you for engaging in that activity with me. Here's some facts about stress. 38% of adults say they have overeaten or eaten unhealthy foods because of stress in the past month. 53% of adults say they exercise to manage their stress. The American Psychological Association tells us that 1 in 5 Americans ignore health care needs due to an inability to afford it. The Cleveland Clinic tells us that 31% of workers saw a decrease in stress after adopting a program that included meditation. Kluger in 2019 concluded that 75% of all Americans had stress in the past month. I wish I could see your show of hands to see if this is your experience. I can certainly tell you it is mine. Let's talk about what stress is. Obviously, stress is a major, perception is a major factor in stress. And it's that idea that you have threats around you that you don't know how to handle. Now, of course, perception can widely vary from person to person. I know that the way I view things is so much different than my wife and my family and my clients, and it makes it eternally interesting to see how a perception affects reality. Your perception determines the intensity and duration of the body's many stress-related reactions. So stress is to a perceived external threat. Anxiety is that internal alarm, whether there's an actual threat or not. Our body is wired to act as if we still live in the ages of lions and tigers and mortal threats all the time, and we don't, but our body still behaves that way. Stress is the body's natural defense against predators and danger. It causes the body to flood with hormones that prepare its systems to evade or confront danger. People commonly refer to this as the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. And if you've ever had anxiety, you'll know how that works. The body produces larger quantities of the chemicals cortisol, epinephrine, and norepinephrine, and these trigger the body's physical reactions. Increased blood pressure. Now, as a 50-something, I can attest to that whenever my blood pressure is high, I've just experienced some sort of stress, and I need to use tools to bring it down. But there are tools that you can use to bring it down. Obviously, you have a heightened muscle preparedness so that you're ready to run, you're ready to fight, and so blood pumps to the extremities, and you're ready to go. It also leads to sweating and hyper alertness. There are two types of stress. Chronic stress, which develops over a long period of time. Unfortunately, a lot of times we don't learn how to deal with stress as young people, and as I tell my clients, undealt with stress can become health issues later. So it's really healthy to learn how to deal with stress when you're young. Again, these manifest as high blood pressure, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and they can also manifest in PTSD from trauma, depression, and anxiety. So there's a difference between chronic stress and acute stress. Acute stress is that short-term stress that you feel when something happens that's very escalating, and it's a lot more common. And it's easier to resolve it often, and it's shorter lasting. Stress is responses in the body. There's stress and perceived threat. So that's the fight, flight, or freeze mode. Depression and anxiety seem to be very common in our society. And obviously at Sierra Tucson, these are two of the major ones I deal with. And just helping people with tools to handle that fight, flight, or freeze response can make a lot of difference in de-escalating what's going on for that person. Then there are somatic responses. There's obviously that feeling unsafe, and then the overwhelmed feeling of being flooded. And a lot of people struggle with that. I find that the flooding can often make a difference in relationships because somebody's not able to talk when they're in that flooded moment. And so they need some time to collect themselves and be able to come back to the discussion. The autonomic nervous system consists of the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system has the following functions. It basically runs the primitive aspects of our lives. I mean, the heart rate, we don't have to say, okay, breathe, or okay, pump. It just handles it automatically, thank heavens. And then we have digestion. It helps all the digestion juices, and respiration, and obviously our blood pressure. I've heard somebody describe high blood pressure as having a half-inch hose and connecting it to a quarter-inch hose, and there's so much more pressure in that quarter-inch hose, and that's what we're doing to our blood vessels. But the main purpose of the autonomic nervous system is to help us survive, and so these fight, flight, freeze responses are very helpful in that regard. So what happens when we follow these fight, flight, and freeze responses to their natural conclusions? Well, fight, it creates irritation, frustration, which can lead to anger, which can lead to rage. Well, anger is obviously a very heightened emotion. It gets us ready to take action. Then we have flight. Sometimes we can't stand and fight, so we have to run. And fight leads to worry and concern, and that produces a fear response, and that panic and terror make us do something, like get out of there, get away from the situation. Sometimes stress results in a freeze response where there's daydreaming, and a lot of people dissociate. It's a merciful way the body has of giving us a break from what's going on. In severe cases, it can lead to catatonia. But all of these things can lead to feeling numb or stuck or shut down. What are causes of stress? Depending on what you do, your job can be a very high form of stress. Anybody out there that's doing what I do in counseling, it can be a burden of stress sometimes. External situations like lack of time or money, trying to fit too much into too few hours, bereavement, family problems, illness, moving, relationships, marriage, divorce. One big one for me is traffic, and it's what I'm not proud to say it, but it's something that I have to talk myself down from a lot when somebody cuts me off, and I have to focus on my breathing, and I have to think my way through the process rather than behave in a way that doesn't become me. Fear of crime or problems with neighbors. Pregnancy and becoming a parent. For a lot of people living in big cities, excessive noise, overcrowding, and pollution. Uncertainty, waiting for an important outcome. Often that's a big one. Sometimes the anticipation is much worse than the actual situation. We're all familiar with the frog in the pot analogy. You're the frog and you're in a nice cool pot of water, and somebody turns up the heat gradually. Before you know it, you're fried or you're boiled. And that's the way stress can sneak up on you. And sometimes we're very poor at noticing where that stress is and how it arrives. There's behavioral markers that go along with chronic stress. These are things that help you to know that you need to do something, that you need to take care of yourself, that you need to engage in some self-care. Impatience, I know that that's a sign of burnout for me. Being snappy or short-tempered, not getting good sleep. Sometimes people engage in nightmares, especially if PTSD is involved. Appetite changes. I tend to overeat. Some people tend to not eat. Being jumpy or on edge, just being hyper aware and easily startled. Being accident prone. Being rigid or inflexible. And using ineffective or harmful self-coping practices. A lot of times the tools that we use for self-care are not very caring, and sometimes they're just done in reaction. There's cognitive markers. I see a lot of my clients with high anxiety have lowered concentration, and they sometimes complain of poor memory because their mind is so engaged in the fight or flight response. There's a reduced sense of safety. Intrusive thoughts, disturbing memories can come in with stress. And then preoccupation with life's difficulties. So it's so much easier to focus on the problem rather than to look at the solutions. And then often people become disoriented. Emotional markers. When I think about depression, I think about powerlessness and hopelessness. Anxiety and fear can creep in. Anger. Anger is an empowering emotion, but sometimes it can be overblown and inappropriate for the situation. Sadness. Emotional roller coaster. I have a lot of clients that report feeling numb or no emotion. And sometimes they say that's worse than feeling other emotions a lot more intensely. And then a lot of people feel run down or out of steam. It's amazing how much power chronic stress has to take the wind out of your sails. Spiritual markers. I happen to ascribe to a higher power. And so I know that I'm out of kilter when I'm at odds with my higher power. A lot of people feel loss of hope, loss of pleasure. They have anger at their higher power because situations don't seem to be going their way, and they feel powerless to do anything about it. Maybe they question prior religious beliefs, or they develop a lot more skepticism toward religion or spirituality, reduced joy and sense of purpose with career, and loss of compassion. I'm going to take a drink, for folks. My mouth is a bit dry, so give me a minute. I'm going to engage in some self-care for 2 seconds. Thank you for that. There are social markers that mark chronic stress. Decreased interest in emotional intimacy, mistrust and isolation, being overprotective, feeling lonely, increased interpersonal conflicts, and trouble separating work from personal life. That's a big one for most people, having that work-life balance. Somatic or bodily markers, shock, rapid heartbeat and sweating, aches and pains, dizziness, impaired immune system often makes you more prone to illness, exhaustion, gastrointestinal problems, and headaches. It affects our work and our productivity, absenteeism, exhaustion. Sorry, folks. Okay, what can we do to work on reducing stress? We can remove or change the source of the stress. Sometimes we can get ourselves out of a situation. If we have a chronically bad situation where a lot of things continue to happen that we have no control over, then we probably need to do something about changing that situation. We can do body work, lowering the effects of stress on the body. Psychotherapy can be helpful as well, and continuing to do that. It, especially cognitive behavioral therapy, can help you have a different view of a stressful event. Thinking differently creates different feelings, which in turn creates different behaviors. And obviously we can learn alternative ways of coping. We need to work on building resiliency. Some people have the same stressors, but they have different protective factors. So resiliency is a person's inner ability to face fear and adversity with courage and the will to persevere and overcome. There's some great phone apps that can help with these sorts of things. I've used Calm before. I like that. Headspace is good. Breathe, Sleep. All of these are great apps, and some of them are free. So if you have the ability to get them, then I would definitely recommend them for helping relaxation. Self-soothing. As children, we're supposed to learn how to self-soothe and not have to have others to do it. One point is to deliberately relax, to do it intentionally. We don't just wait to feel better. We start to engage our bodies. For example, when I am in a traffic situation, the first thing I remember to do is breathe. I get my breathing back, slow my heart rate down. Meditation is also a great relaxer. Orienting myself to an area, to a room, and grounding. All of these techniques can be hugely helpful in creating a safe space. How do we build resiliency? We need to find new solo and semi-solo activities. I don't know about you, but I love gardening. Maybe I'm not so great at it. I'm not necessarily a great green thumb, but moving dirt around and seeing things grow, to me, that's awesome. It makes it just so relaxing, and so it helps me a lot. Biking is also a great relaxer. Find gratitude in challenges, focusing on gratitude rather than problems. Find 3 things every day to be grateful for. This actually changes the brain. Establish and maintain healthy work life and boundaries and balance. I am always looking at that balance and trying to get my life back into balance, as hard as that is. Music is also a great way to deal with stress. Connect with others virtually. Obviously, we live in the age of COVID, and being able to watch movies together, even if you're 1,000 miles apart, can be a great way to get together. Play virtual games together. All of these can be great ways to connect. And so I really enjoy the opportunities to be able to connect with family. Right now, we were just talking to staff before, and it's great now that we can start to get together with people that have been vaccinated, and we don't have to wear a mask, and we have the ability to just share each other's time. Finally, how do we build resiliency? We need to increase our proactive self-care. One way I describe it to clients is self-care is not selfish. Self-care is necessary to carry on the things that we have to do in our life. And so the best defense is a good offense. Nobody else can take care of you. Only you can do that. So you need to engage in some ongoing body work. If you're dealing with personal issues, stress issues, talking to a therapist and learning some new techniques for handling stress is awesome. Eating healthy. As I get older, I can't stress that enough. New methods of exercise, meditation, learning to be mindful, learning to live in the moment rather than living in the past or the future, and creating a new support network, enhancing your friendships, growing your support network. We need to be growing outward rather than retreating inward. At this point, I would like for us to go to some questions, to discuss some questions. And I would like to address some of the questions that I see. Right now I'm trying to access my webcam just so you can see my face, but I'm having some issues with that. But anyway, let me address a question I see here. I appreciate everybody that has sent questions. One question that I see is, how do I avoid burnout? I think I'm getting my camera up again. Hi, folks. Technical difficulties. How do you identify burnout and what do you do? Well, I can tell you what I do. How do I identify burnout? I think everybody's got different cues. Everybody's got different signs that they're burning out. You know, when I'm working with clients and I start to feel resentment because of hearing their stories, when I start to feel overburdened and fatigued by hearing clients' stories, you know, kind of that compassion fatigue, for me, that's a big sign of burnout. And when I dread going to work, when I dread spending time with people and I just want to be alone, isolation is also a big form of burnout for me. And so it's really important that I be aware of that. As a therapist, obviously, I don't want to bring my stress to my clients. They didn't come to me for that. And what do I do about it? Everybody does something different with their stress. I mean, obviously, every day I like to take a walk and I like to take some time out to be mindful. But sometimes I need a little time away. So for me, I don't know, going to Sedona is a great place, great thing just to get away for a couple of days, get out of my head. I also believe in frequent vacations and taking care of myself in that way, because that's, and spending time with my family and spending time on the things that are important. Somebody else asked me, what do you do with intrusive thoughts? A lot of times clients come to me with intrusive thoughts where they just say they can't get out of their head. And that seems to be a big one. A lot of people suffer from that. Sometimes I get into my own head and it's hard to get out. Really, for myself, I find that mindfulness is one of the best tools. When I'm in my head, I'm not in the moment, and I'm not focusing on the things that I can do for myself now. I'm future tripping. I'm worried about things that I have a tendency to catastrophize, and so to avoid doing that, I try to get present. And again, going for a walk in a nice area, kind of focusing on what's around me, smells, the sounds, the sights, and just becoming very grounded in what's around me really helps to help me to feel grounded and to feel in a good place. And it's something that I have to continually do. And so intrusive thoughts can rob you of current joy and feel like take away your future. So trying to live in this moment, trying to teach those grounding tools. They sound so simple. Breathe. That sounds so simple, and yet it's so important. And then it's, of course, how do I breathe? Teaching people how to do diaphragmatic breathing and how to scan their body. And progressive muscle relaxation is a great one, for helping people access that autonomic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system to help them get into a good place. Well, folks, it looks like the time is up. I really appreciate you coming, really appreciate your time. I hope you've been able to get something from our time today. Just a couple of nuggets, hopefully, that will help you. And we'll be sending out a letter to you with some information on it. And we really appreciate any comments you have for helping us improve. And great to talk to you today.